Pain? 7?
It's a recording.
Right. Will my song be played?
Yeah.
Alright, cool. Alright, so let me get that on. First of all, let me say a wonderful good night to everyone. This is an occasion to be remembered for the rest of our lives, as we are on the eve of Jamaica emancipation. What, 61? I want to smile, but yet so my heart is full because of what the occasion tonight is. Because as we get into our program, we'll get a chance to just gel with exactly what our theme is. Justice must be served. This is the first time that we're actually going to get a chance to actually take this whole matter with Keita Stevens from this perspective. Now I'm going to ask, before I go any further, I'm going to be asking my mother, one of my biggest cheerleaders, to just come forward just to do the opening prayer. Oh wow, thank you. Thank you so much, Mommy. And I have to say, she has been at the helm. Keita Stevens is the only male in my life that she gave.
Stop. Internet give me so much problem. May I say something? You have internet service as well?
Yes, we do.
Give me the Wi-Fi code.
Yes.
Stop it, I'm going to stop the cover.
Alright, no problem.
Internet, I don't know that.
Alright, so you're using yours?
Yeah?
Are you using yours or are you using mine?
No, me I use my something about every minute me see it go away.
Alright, so what we're doing as backup?
No, just stop looking. You say you have internet here?
Yeah, man.
Give me the service now.
Alright, then that's just what I'm saying.
Yeah, the Wi-Fi password, right?
Yeah.
Right, please.
I don't know what going on here. Yes.
Goes on the phone, right?
Take a picture of it and display it. Look at the bottom of the thing. Let me see that. Mr. Stevens' lawyer, CJ Mitchell. I know he was here earlier and he had to leave because he had another scheduled appointment. So I do apologize from the bottom of my heart. All that happened today was not within our planning. We had everything planned, but again, things do happen. I am, however, honored to be a part of this event. I am indeed honored to be here just to stand in this capacity. And so as we go into our very short program, we're going to do so with opening prayer. So can I ask none other than my mother, Mrs. Lowe, to just come forward with the opening prayer. I'm going to ask us or can we bow our heads, please? Eternal God and most righteous Father, we just want to give you thanks. Can I just turn the music down for me a minute? We just want to thank you for yet another day. Father, we are humbled to be here in your presence. And we are so honored to know that you have never lost a battle. We know that everything is won by faith. Father, as we come before you this evening, we are humbled to say, with you we are free indeed. There's no way emancipation can happen without us knowing who our God is, who our Creator is. Emancipation means to be free, and there's no way we can be free, Father God, without your presence. Lord, we just want to thank you for the opportunity of gathering here today. Thank you for blessing the food that you've provided. Thank you for blessing each person, for covering us, for gathering us here today. We ask for your presence in this function. We ask that you cover the grounds with your holy, with the Holy Spirit. We ask that angels descend upon this grounds. We ask that your blood cover. Father, we just want to ask that at this time that you just take full control. We can do nothing without you. Father, let self be slain. Father, you said in your word that truth will set us free. Now, Father, we are honored tonight to bring the truth to our Jamaican people. We're honored tonight to stand before our parents and our loved ones within this community, just to say that you are God. Father, we ask for Keita's covering even now. Lord, you know what he's going through. You know the whole essence of this. You know when it started. You know that it was here before his birth. And so, Father, we are honored to stand in your presence to make sure that your will be fulfilled. As we go through, we just want to ask for your humble presence. Bless us tonight. Be with us all. Guide and protect us. Lead and direct us in all things. In Jesus' name. Amen. Now, can I ask all persons to say, we're going to repeat the Bible verse, John 3, verse 16 and 17. I want all person sitting here to repeat it. For God so loved the world. After 2, 1, 2. St. John 3, verse 16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. For God sent not his Son into the world to condemn the world, but that the world through him might be saved. And so I'm happy tonight that we are comforted by these words, and we are indeed encouraged that there is a God and he stands president in all our lives. So thank you so much for that. At this time, I would like to move on into our program. Now, for those who have a program, it says here, Keita Stevens, the champion, justice must be served, and we are streaming from Kingston, Jamaica. So for those who are around the world listening, I know his family members are listening in Canada, in America. I'm so honored. Welcome. I would love for you to leave your comments in the section, because what is happening here is something that we want. It's not just for us. It's not just for Keita, but it's actually for the entire Jamaica and the world at large. Now, I might not be able to speak to everything, as Mr. Mitchell was responsible for the legal aspect. And as I said to you before, he was on time. It's just that we had glitches. So again, I say thanks. But I will indeed share my experience that I've been having with the case and Mr. Stevens' input as a director of our school. So at this time, let me just break down to say, most persons who interact with Mr. Stevens have heard many terminologies being used. He's the hot guy. He's the boyfriend. He is the teacher. He is a father. And more than, he's a businessman, but more than anything else, to most persons, he's a champion. Why do I say so? Because our entire lives were changed. For me, on the 15th of July, 2022, when I received a phone call from a particular police station here in Kingston. Now, Mr. Stevens, before I go any further, is a director in our school. And he is somebody who started the school from, I remember I had the opportunity, first of all, I didn't even introduce myself. I'm so sorry. I am Dorothy Lowe. I'm also one of the directors within the school. And this is our feature on emancipation by Keita Stevens, the champion. Now, Creative Minds, ECEC, which means Early Childhood Commission, and Preparatory School, was founded by Dorothy Lowe and Keita Stevens in the year 2010. We actually got our certificate in the year 2011 or 2011. Now, how did the concept come about? I am actually a trained literacy specialist. I'm a teacher for this year, November 25th, 30 years. Now, I can look this young because my students actually keep me laughing. My teaching profession is not a job, it's a service. And so therefore, I am always honored to serve my Jamaican people and the global community at large. And so tonight, it pains my heart that as I stand before you, the capacity in which I'll stand, it's not a very comforting one, but it's one that I have to get done. Now, the journey started in 2009 when I was selected by the British Council of Jamaica to represent our beautiful country, Jamaica, via the vehicle of education, linking 5 schools here in Jamaica to 5 schools in England. Now, I had just come out of the hospital after battling with pseudomembrane colitis, where my entire colons were actually rotten. I spent 1 full month in the university hospital on the drip, not being able to eat, not being able to walk, not being able to sleep, in crazy pain. And it was Mr. Stevens who stayed at my bedside. So he was the one that lifted me onto the bed, held me in a chair, while my sister-in-law would actually give me a bath. She came to the hospital, university hospital, she made sure that I was clean, I was comfortable. Now, Mr. Stevens had a bicycle when I first met him. And right now his brother, who is in the audience, actually rides the same bicycle even now. And so he's coming from this humble type of person, that's who he is. And I remember him coming to the hospital every single day, riding his bicycle all the way from home straight up to the hospital, the university hospital, every single day. Now, after spending a month, I had to learn to eat. I had to learn to walk again. I had to learn to do everything all over like a child. And he has never left my side. Now, right after about 2-3 weeks after coming back, the Ministry of Education actually asked me to come back, right back in the classroom. All right, fine. I was recruited by the ministry, by British Council to go to England. I first went to Mexico on a VIP visa. The experience was awesome. Now, the journey to England took me to see 5 different schools, stemming from the early childhood level, but right up to the tertiary level, because I had to visit even and assess some of the tertiary schools, the universities. And the picture that resonated with me more than anything else was actually going to a special needs school and seeing the sensory room with kids who could not even move. They had to be tailored and they had to be nurtured, cared for by caregivers who had to ensure that the room was totally dark. They had like balls, they had like different sensory lights and stuff, and I was really motivated by that. There was also a little girl that I saw in England, I'm sure she's old enough now, but she could not eat through her mouth. There was a tube that was actually inserted in her navel, and milk had to be poured inside of that little container in order for her to actually be nurtured or to eat. Now I remember the first time they said to me, you know, Miss Lowe, would you like to feed her? I wouldn't even touch her because as I saw her, I thought she was in so much pain. I remember that I was in the hospital with all of that pain also. And that's really moved me. When I came back to Jamaica, I was adamant. I am going to start my own school. So I was on Mr. Stevens' bed in his room, jumping up and saying, Keita, guess what? I'm going to start my own school. I'm going to start my own school. The first thing he said to me is, Dorothy, do you have the money? I said, I don't care. I don't want any money. I'm going to start the school. He says, all right, fine. If you're going to start, then you have my 100% support. Now, I remember our first opening was actually at 1 North Avenue. And it was Mr. Stevens who painted the fencing. It was Mr. Stevens who was our first driver. And I remember we had one of the most amazing summer school that year. And he was the one that was our chess master. We saw children's lives being changed. Children who were told that they can't. Children who were told that they were useless. Their parents gave up on them. And Mr. Stevens used the vehicle of chess, the game chess, to actually motivate them. Where are some of those students? They are actually, Tenila Valentine actually left Vast Prep. She was a year young. She went to Holy Childhood High School. She left Holy Childhood High School at 15 years old, which was way too young for her. She went on to UWI. She had to sit out a couple of years, went on to UWI. And she's now one of the most amazing persons in our lives. There's also another young lady who is from the Marlborough community, whose parents, I remember when her parent brought her up, they were saying, you know, she can't do nothing. We are bothered with her for. And I remember watching Mr. Stevens with the chess pieces, and I remember seeing her in tears saying she just can't win him. And he said, listen to me, if you stay the game long enough, you can beat me. That young lady was so motivated that I hadn't seen her for a while, but when I went to the States to teach, which was in 2019, came back on the 1st of November 2020, I bumped into her. And to God be the glory, she is actually at the University of the West Indies. She's actually majoring in business. And she said, Auntie, I made it. Now, these are the stories that surrounds Mr. Stevens. Now, who is he? Why do I say he's a champion? He's a champion not just to these persons who has reached out his skills to, but he's a champion to his daughter. Now, she is actually here in Jamaica, and I know she's hurting because of what happened. My son is also overseas living. He went overseas for school, and I know he's also hurting. His family members who are basically online now as we speak, his sister who's in Canada, his brother who's also overseas, his aunts, everybody is just torn apart by what's happening here with him. And we want tonight to show Mr. Stevens, the champion, in a different light. Now, he is known for Skittle. Now, I have his cube. And this is Mr. Stevens' his cube. And I remember I would watch physics come to life with him and this cube. His name is still engraved here, Keita Stevens. And every time he stood in the ring, That was when he lit up. When every single person in the room was just amazed by this person and how he smiled. He has this very contagious laugh. Every time he laughed, I mean, you can't help but just laughing with him just the same. And so therefore, I want you to understand that tonight you're not wasting your time by sharing the live with us. You're not wasting your time by just being here with us. But you're actually being a part of Jamaican history. And not only that, a part of change in our country. Because I don't think our Prime Minister is aware as to what is happening here. I don't think that the Minister of Justice understands exactly what is happening here in our country. And I'm going to shed just a little bit of light on that tonight. So I am going to be asking a couple persons just to give their tribute to Mr. Stevens. I'm going to ask that person be like about a minute or 2 minutes to make sure that they are short but very precise, because I'm going to touch on some of the legal aspect of things as best as I possibly can, and then I'm going to actually close out with the national anthem. So Aja, she's not here, but Aja is actually one of the students that started up. She's one of the first set of students of 5 that actually started Creative Minds with us. And what happened to Aja? Aja lives on Mall Road, which is in the Waltham Park Gardens community. Her mother is actually, she's a businesswoman, and the funniest thing about it is that she is able to stay online irrespective of the COVID online concept of schools. Aja has, she's now at Alpha, and she is doing extremely well. Aja has not failed from actually getting online, straight A's, even being online. Now we are so happy to have known that we started nurturing her. Now we have a young man online, Dijon Jackson, who is waiting to give his speech. Dijon Jackson is actually the first student ever who attended, who put the first dollar in our hands. I hear a Creative Minds. Dijon, let me see, let me find him. Let me see if I can bring up Dijon. Tiffany, want to help me bring him on? Bring him on, where is he? Now, Dijon Jackson is actually a young man who is no stranger to some persons here in Jamaica. So I'm honored to actually introduce him. I'm going to be turning the screen around so that he can actually share his screen, because he's actually on so I'm going to turn. He's on Google Live. Let me see if I can bring him up. I'm going to unmute you. All right, let me see. Let me get this off. And let me get you a whole lot bigger. There we go. Now, Dijon Jackson was actually 4 years old when he came to Creative Minds. Mr. Stevens was actually his driver. Now, Keita Stevens was the one that actually picked him up from home, and he lives in Augustown, by the way. And he would leave from there. Mr. Stevens would ensure that Dijon is picked up. He's never late for school, along with some other students who were living in the Barbican area, and took them to Creative Minds every morning, and he also took them back home. So Dijon has his tribute, and I want to ask him to share. So I'm going to ask him to unmute his microphone, and we can just welcome all our guests here, both online.
Hello again for the persons who have not met me the last time I came to Creative Minds. Hello. And for the persons who are just seeing my face for the first time, hello. Hope you're having a good night, and I hope the night goes well. As Auntie Dorothy Lowe said, I am the first student of Creative Minds. Uncle Keita was my driver, and I love him very much. Creative Minds has been the stepping stone that I needed to reach where I am right now. I recently graduated St. George's College a couple weeks ago, and so now I'm heading to the top, hopefully. So yeah, welcome. Let's start on that.
Go ahead, Dijon, you're on.
Okay. Good night again.
Good night.
By definition, injustice in the Oxford Dictionary is the fact of a situation being unfair and of people not being treated equally. An unfair act or an example of unfair treatment, and indeed is what is going on here. There needs to be justice for Uncle Keita. The strength of our criminal justice system depends on its accuracy, its ability to convict the guilty and declare it innocent, but still wrongful conviction of it. Identifying and understanding the causes of wrongful convictions is the integrity of our justice system. A conviction may be classified as wrongful for two reasons. One, the person convicted is factually innocent of the charges, and two, they were procedural evidence that violated the convicted person was based charged by the police. Victims are false because that is not notice. And this is a common by many members who are just dead because of hearsay or inaccurate investigations carried out by our authorities. False allegations being taken as truth and lives being put behind bars, all because of our failed justice system and insufficient and non-meticulous investigating by the hands of the police. This rampant issue of social injustice has a lot of negative effects that follow, as it affects almost every area of a person's life. It can lead to civil unrest, ill health, inappropriate sentencing at trial, underemployment or joblessness, and more. I am forever and will be of the belief that the charges brought against the man that dedicated himself to taking care of those of us in his care who never laid a finger on me or the other students in inappropriate or indecent way while we were at the most vulnerable stage of our lives as infants is not a child molester. He went through thick and thin to ensure that I got home safely from school, that he shares with Miss Dorothy Lowe, ensure that I was fed all the time, and ensure that I was happy, safe, and protected while I was at school. Keita Stevens is not what they say he is, and we know that, and that's why we're here today, because there needs to be justice, and that stop must be put to his life, reputation, family, and good works being ruined. I love you, Uncle Keita, and justice will prevail. Justice must prevail. Thank you.
Now, let me just clearly say, those were Dijon's opinion. Those are his words, and I have to say thanks a lot for them. Now, him saying Uncle Keita being convicted, he was given the definition about conviction, because Uncle Keita is not convicted, and I'll speak to that right after. And I'm so grateful for his word, because Dijon is only 17 years old. And Dijon he's a bright, aspiring young man. He's a future of Jamaica. Now, one of the key things is I am now looking in the audience and I'm seeing a lot of my former students that I taught at age 5. Thank you very much. Kisses there too. And they are also leaders in their own right in their companies. I'm looking at Horace Hutchinson, who's actually a supervisor at National Bakery. I'm honored to know that he's still supporting me. I'm seeing his mother that I used to partner with when he was 5 years old in my classroom. I'm looking at Andrel Bailey. Andrel was actually persons stigmatized him to say he was so. He was never so. He now owns his own construction company. I was privileged to see Dijon sending me a video of him doing a presentation. Him being hosting a function at one of the most prestigious hotels here in Kingston. And I'm honored to know that we, as Keita and myself, have been a part of the wider community and even overseas persons' lives. I am indeed honored to be here with that. I'm going to ask Mr. Stevens' brother, who is actually here. I'm going to ask him to join me at the table. I know this is hard for him because I have to get the phone calls that say, you know, how is he doing? What's happening with him? I listen to that every day. And I'm going to ask him just to take his 1 minute and just to share with us in terms of from the family's perspective how he feels. Floor is yours, Mr. Stevens. You know what is heart-rending? Even Auntie Rosie, who is overseas, she actually went in a coma for 2 days, just being stressed out about what's happening here. And as Dijon rightfully says, justice must be served and justice will be served. I am grateful for our justice system here in Jamaica. I'm not bashing it at all, but I'm saying that there are certain things that needs to be taken into consideration as we move forward. And we're looking at 61 years with independence or emancipation on the eve thereof. Yes, Mr. Stevens.
Good night, everybody.
Night.
Petra Stevens, Peter Stevens' brother. And I must say, after hearing all of this, please know that everybody is trying their best to get it out of this crime rate, you know. And for me as a family member, and after hearing all of the family members, it's heart-rending. It's not comfortable. I have no words. I'm speechless because justice system is like...
It's slow, but I hear that it is sure, so we're waiting on it to see what happens.
It don't look like it's sure. It looks like it's a sham. It looks like it's just crammed and stroke and anybody can do what they like. Because this case is happening from last year. Last year. And as far as I'm concerned, no bail, and it's like a petty crime to me. You know? Now I'm saying to Jamaica, you see, and the whole world, if a man gets charged, put him before the court and give him a chance to get bail. If it's even that. You know? But no bail, and it's like you just drag it out. 1 year gone, and it's going to drag out the next year again. Can't manage that. The family wants some justice, they want a trial. Immediate trial. Just lay the cards on the table and tell what is what. Alright?
Thank you so much, Patrick.
Yes.
Auntie Nikki, we have our chairwoman for the school. We're going to ask Auntie Nikki just to give 1 minute. Auntie Nikki has been our chairwoman since 2010. And she has been a tower of strength. She has known us like forever. She has seen every changes that we've been through. She's been there. She has seen the tears. Bring him in. He's the present creative mind, so might as well come here.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thanks for joining us. As Miss Lucy, I'm Auntie Nikki. I know Keita Stevens from 2010. Good person, quiet person. You know, he knows what he's about. Very respectful. What take everything away? He's family oriented. You know? Okay, Miss Lo and I are friends, right? And every married couple, please listen. Every Friday, don't call Miss Lo. 8 o'clock. Miss Lo, Mr. Stevens are
6.
out. And I respect that. You know, he finds time for family. So guys, all this allegation against him, it doesn't make any sense. I'm just going to be blunt, it doesn't make any sense. So, I am here just to celebrate with everybody. It's a celebration, and justice must be served. All right? Thanks for joining. That's just my 2 cents. And just guys, just keep praying. Without God, without God, there's nothing can happen without God. But with Him, all things are possible.
Amen.
Amen.
I'm gonna ask Mrs. Lowe to come. This is my mom. And the funniest thing is I only bring home to my mother dates that make sense. And she has said no to nearly everybody in my life, except this one person, Keita Stevens. No, everybody keeps saying he's our heartbeat. And when I called her last year just to tell her what was happening, I know my brothers are also online. It was just really difficult for all of us. So mommy, I keep here 1 minute, so okay.
Oh, let me say good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's a privilege to be here, and it's an honor on the behalf of Keita. Is one man have justice in his hands, and that is the Almighty God. And He is all together for justice.
Amen.
Jesus never give us more than we can bear. Keita had to bear His cross. If Jesus do it for us, if He do it for us, we have to pay the price. And He is not there alone. Paul was in prison.
Jesus was in prison.
Paul was jailed. And the Bible said at the midnight he prayed. And the jail felt open. And when the jailer decided to hurt themselves, Paul said, do yourself no harm. We are all here. God is gonna deliver him.
Amen.
I believe.
Amen.
I come for that purpose. And I won't leave until it happens. God is gonna see justice prevail. And I know,
Amen.
as the soul liveth and as God liveth, somebody's gonna pay the price. I don't know who, I don't know when, but somebody is gonna pay the price, and it's gonna be so difficult for them. Make we pray for Keita, because God is a God of mercy, second chance,
Amen.
never fail,
Amen.
ever sure, ever living. God see better. For me, in the dark, where Keita is, God have him in the palm of his hands. And he said to us, fret not thyself because of evildoer, now be thou envious against the workers of iniquity.
Amen.
For they shall soon cut off, and that without remedy. As my soul liveth, and as God liveth, justice must prevail. God bless you. God keep you. May God have his face shine upon Keita. He is a Samuel, and nothing can carry him down. God wants him, and God will do anything to get a soul, because it is precious in his sight. God bless you. Have a blessed night. Pray for Keita Stevenson as the night of the day. In Jesus' name.
Amen. Thank you so much. Alright, I'm going to be as quick as I possibly can. And as I enter into this aspect, this is now the legal aspect as to what's happening. Now we listen to persons giving their tributes. We listen to persons speaking about Mr. Stevens, but what exactly is happening? Now, I'm going to summarize my experience as best as I possibly can. We are actually on the outside and it's a bit warm. So if you notice that, you know, we have our water and our juice because we're refreshing ourselves. But on the 15th of July 2022, I, Dorothy Lowe, got a call from a particular police station here in Kingston. Now on the line was Mr. Keita Stevens. He told me that he was actually locked up. I thought that was just crazy. I did not hesitate. I actually went to the police station. And forgive me, it's a bit difficult to really go back through the whole thing. And when I got there, what was so interesting is that I went to the guard room first, and I actually asked for him by name. So I explained to the officers, you know, being respectful. Good afternoon, I'm here to see. I get to understand that Mr. Stevens, Keita Stevens, was here. I was told there's no one there by that name. I produced my cell phone and I showed the number from the station. So I said, how is it that your station number actually called me? And the gentleman said, oh, I carry on to Big Yard. I actually asked, where is Big Yard? Because this is my first experience with a jail or a lockup system. Or going into that type of setting. You know, the officer explained, oh, she new to this. Come with me. You're safe with me. And that was the first time we, as family members and friends, discovered Keita Stevens. I learned that Keita was actually missing for 2 days. So he was indeed, and based on the reports that the police officers now have, he has been locked up since the 13th of July, 2022. Now, I listened to his brother speaking, and he is perfectly correct. Because July 13th this year marks 1 full year since Keita Stevens has been locked up in remand. We have been going to hearings upon hearings upon hearings, and the matter is still before the court. So I will not get in depth, and I will not be saying certain things because his lawyer is not present. But I have discussed with Mr. Mitchell. Mr. Mitchell is one of the most experienced lawyers. He has over 1 million cases here in Jamaica. He also practices in England, and he does awesome. What I love about Mr. Mitchell is the timely manner in which he has taken the case. He knows it is tearing us apart. He knows with every single hearing that we go through that we're looking for that one opening where Keita comes home. Now, Mr. Mitchell had to learn about the case. However, I have been with the case from the beginning. Mr. Mitchell is not the first lawyer. So when Mr. Stevens actually asked me to retain a lawyer for him, I did. I retained a female lawyer, and she had the first case. Now, the interesting thing about Keita's case is, after being locked up on the 13th, she managed to have gotten a date for the 27th of July, 2022 for Mr. Stevens. We went to court, and the funniest thing is this: Mr. Stevens, even though he was locked up on the 13th, based on the records that we've seen, he was never charged. The first lawyer actually got him a date on the 27th, and he was actually charged on the 25th for pharmaceutical matters. No. Mr. Mitchell might not be here to speak to it in depth, and I will not go any further. But I'm saying, why was he locked up for so long and not being charged? And I had asked Mr. Mitchell to be here to speak to our constitutional rights. Because I'm looking at our audience and I'm seeing males sitting in our audience. And I'm saying our males have the same judicial rights as our females. So I'm actually saying, why was he locked up for so long without being charged? All right, so we proceeded. We actually went to court on the 27th of July 2022. And I was quite adamant that this was going to be the day, and everything was fine. So we'll hear what the judge has to say. His female lawyer came back out with her face looking a bit grim. When I inquired of her what really happened, she actually said to me, he was remanded. So I asked her on what basis. She actually told me that the police officer actually said he saw sexual videos in Mr. Stevens' phone with minors. I simply said to her, then why didn't he just show the videos in court? She said she got a date for the 4th of August 2022. All right, fine. So we're going to get somewhere. So basically what is going to happen is that the officer is going to come and he's going to show the phone. He's going to show the video footages of Mr. Stevens. And he's going to, no, we're going to have a case because we're going to be placed in before the courts. We are going to be going through a trial. And we are going to get some balance as to what is happening. Not so. We actually went to court on the 4th of July, 2022. And on the 3rd of July, what was so interesting is that the female lawyer gave me a call to say, Miss O, we are in good stead because guess what? Mr. Stevens has no other charges against him. I was elated. She actually said to me, is there anything that is prominent about Mr. Stevens? I said to her, well, first, I'm actually wearing his ID for his workplace. I said he was working at this particular place for 11 years, which is 1 full decade plus an extra year. She said, no, man, that's not enough. I said, all right, fine. He's actually the owner, he's part owner of a school, along with myself, so we're partners. And I actually have this certificate in my hand for the school. And so, we're part owners. It was Mr. Stevens' money when he got, when he did his last job. He worked with his brother on doing, I think it was electrical installation, right? Okay, cool. And that was when we met. Now, the funniest thing is that for about 2 months into our relationship, Mr. Stevens, the contract was up and Mr. Stevens did not get a job for 4 years. So he had enough time for us to start this new business. So we actually have, the school is registered 2011, it was registered then. So she said this was just perfect. He doesn't have any charges against him, prior charges, criminal charges that is, and he is an upstanding person within the community, so there's no reason why he would not get bail. So we are in good stead. We went back, she went in court, she came back out, and she was just grim. What's wrong now? She said to me, Keita was again remanded because now the police officer has actually shown a statement. Now the female lawyer actually went ahead to show me the statement on her phone. When I looked at the statement, I said to her, that's not a real statement because for one, when you're dealing with, I am teaching, I'm in education for over 25, it's my 30th year this year, from 1993, I can do the math. And I'm going to be honest with you, I have been in sexual matters with minors. While I was at New Providence Primary, there was a little girl that had to go to the court system. I was just doing my degree, and I have a reading program because that's where the school started from. She was actually molested from, she was 3 years old. She was 7 at the time. Now, Mr. Stevens and I scaffolded that little girl with our entire life. She ended up calling him daddy. Now, I was at Michael Teachers College during this time and she would fall asleep on my desk. I made sure my assignments were late because I was nearly thrown out of my degree program because one of the first things that when my assignments were late, I've never failed a course. And so I remember I was the one that went with this girl to Sissoko, and it was an extensive report. I was actually interrogated by the police officers there. That young lady is now about 20, my son is about 25 this year. He's actually 3 years older, so she's about 22 years old. She has 2 beautiful kids, and I'm grateful for that. So when I saw the statement, I was kind of saying, no, this doesn't look right. It doesn't look as if it is something that's authentic. Anyway, the judges accepted it, we moved on. I'm saying, all right, fine, because of our justice system, we're going to get a chance to see. So the police officers will showcase what is it that they that they have against Mr. Stevens. We had to, court went into recession or holiday, and then we were not back in court until about, I think it was September. By this time we had Mr. Mitchell. We had retained Mr. Mitchell. Now Mr. Mitchell walked in, first of all, listening in. What was amazing is that I had the opportunity of actually sitting in that courthouse also. Now what was interesting was the police officer just walked into the court, and when the judge actually asked, is the matter closed or what's happening with the matter in terms of where we are, the police officer just said, we have 40 more charges to lay against Mr. Stevens. Okay, fine, remand. Mr. Stevens was taken back into remand. We went back in October, and again, the police officer just simply says, we have 40 more charges to lay on Mr. Stevens next week. Again, he's remanded. I found that kind of weird. I read finds a hearing, but there must be some substance. Didn't say anything. In November, Mr. Stevens, I got a call from the University Hospital stating that Mr. Stevens had an appointment, and they wanted to find out if I was willing to keep it, if he was keeping the appointment. Now the call was actually diverted to me because I'm his next of kin on his documents. Now I couldn't answer to that because he's now being faced with a criminal matter, and I am not too sure how to deal with that. So I went to seek advice from his lawyer, Mr. Mitchell. When I got to Mr. Mitchell said to me, go ahead, make sure that he keeps his appointments and everything. I actually have his medical records from the university hospital here in my hand. What is interesting is Mr. Stevens had actually gone there because he is actually a patient at one of their clinics there, which is the GI, gastrointestinal unit, because he had been experiencing blood in his stool since, based on what the hospital said, he came to them in 2021. This is before the case started. He actually went to see them January 2022. The case still hasn't started. He was remanded up to the point of November when he had to go in on the 17th of November 2022 to see the doctors. Now, one of the key things is that the doctors actually, based on what they were seeing, actually asked for a barium enema procedure to be done to find out what was causing the bleeding. And it does say bleeding on here. Now, I watched as that document was actually taken from me and given over to the police. Not too sure why or what happened with that, but he never got a chance to do it. Now, there were some assumption that it might be hemorrhoids, but let me tell you something. As I explained to the doctors, I am a trained literacy specialist. If I want to find out exactly what is happening with a child, I do my assessment. I am not trained to say why there is blood in the gentleman's stool. I'm not trained at all, and I will never ever say, guess what, this is conclusive. So the barium enema test was supposed to see what was happening with him and what was causing the bleeding. It was never done. I spoke to the head of medicals and I told them that, listen to me, if anything happens to him, then head will roll. So another procedure was put in place, which is a CT scan. Now this is a CT scan, a copy thereof. And the CT scan was supposed to be done. This is written from, it was actually from the 16th of March 2023. But again, we tried to get another testing in to see what was happening and why does he have blood in his stool. This testing has still not been done. And that's the hurtful part. I have another document while he is incarcerated from the St. Catherine Health Public Department, which is what's the name of that health center? St. Jago. It's St. Jago medical or clinic. And here they're saying that he has blood in his urine now. And yet still, the doctors are saying they are still awaiting for Mr. Stevens to actually come to them to say exactly what is happening by doing some procedures. To date, nothing has been done. What is so interesting, and I hope the Prime Minister gets a hold of this, because in our jail cells, they are not dogs, they are not animals, they are human beings. And as we stand on the premise of what we call emancipation, I'm not too sure what we mean by emancipation, because I kind of went online and touched on this Oxford source, a dictionary that says emancipation means to be free from someone else, or to be legally free and also politically freed from a particular system or person. Now, if that is so, then I don't see where is it that emancipation, there's any need for me to celebrate right now. Because if the gentleman's medical health is not even taken into consideration, and I would love to know why, I'm not going to speculate, but I'm actually going to give the courts the reason, the open space to make a decision based on that. Now, on top of that, every single medical document, that's both from the university hospital and from St. Jago Clinic, states that the man has high blood pressure or hypertension. This is where water plays a vital role in your diet. Now, I am the person who's been visiting Mr. Stevens for the past 1 year plus weeks. I have never ever missed one visit since he's been incarcerated. Now, while he was at one branch of the lockups, we were able to, and I do have my cell phone right here, where we actually I normally take a picture of every single visit or items that I take in. No. Back then in 2011, where we were, I would take in 5 of these 6-liter bottles. I would explain to the officers that he has high blood pressure. But his visit didn't only consist of just pure water. His visit consisted of, and I'm going to give you a breakdown, it consisted of 5 bottles of water, a bottle of juice or syrup which is poured into a bag. We would actually have a bottle of coconut water. So all those who are out there can do the research. Coconut water actually helps to bring down the pressure. Now remember that the man is incarcerated. He's in remand. He cannot come out to do his regular. He can't get a chance to walk up and down to exercise to really alleviate all of the pressures of high blood pressure or hypertension. So water and the coconut water I thought was the fitting to actually get this done. Didn't have a problem. It was accepted from last year up until this point. But what was so interesting is that every single time, seeing that we're at this new location, and I'm going to withhold the name of the institution for now. For now. I'm going to be respectful. I'm going to give our officers a chance to do the right thing. And I'm going to give our Prime Minister and the Minister of Justice to do the right thing. Because the thing is this, I don't only speak to persons when it's time for election, and I'm speaking openly because I'm of the age. I'm not a child. I'm a citizen of this country. And if I'm going to be living here, I believe our people need to be treated fairly. I've taught a class of 40 students, and nobody has the right in my classroom to get any extra privilege. I had the opportunity of teaching my son once, at age 5. And now he was sitting there amongst a group of about 40 other students. And my son never had the right to even get the leeway. He cannot even call me mommy in my classroom. It has to be Miss Lowe. When he gets home, he can call me mommy. If another child had to be reprimanded, my son had to be reprimanded also. My son now turns 25 next year. I'm going to be getting my first grandchild shortly. And the funniest thing about it is that every single person, every female, every mother actually asks me if they can get his hand in marriage for their daughters, because he's a gentleman. I grew my son to be somebody who's caring and not just thinking about himself. So therefore, I want our Prime Minister to understand that his cabinet needs to start thinking about not themselves only, but about our nation's people. I am also the former head girl for Mona High School. I did not graduate because here comes the tier system again. I'm a science student. Second in command are the business student. Third in command are the arts. And then here comes the scum of everything, who is our technical. Not so. I went to Mona High School and I'm proud to have attended there. I'm proud to be there for my head girl 1993. And what I stood for, I told teachers that they needed to be fair. Whatever you did for the science student, do it for the technical students too. They were very upset. And so they striked for 2 days. My principal actually took away my graduation. I don't care. Today, I still stand resolute about being fair, about being respectful, and about being adamant that we need to be treated fairly. Now, when I go to the visit, I'm being told that we are only supposed to take 2 bottles of water. His doctor wrote a prescription for 5 bottles of water. I was told that it cannot be accommodated in the cell. So I'm saying, when the bottles become empty, can they be put in bags? This is a special case. Are you telling me that this man basically, right now he's in 24 hours lockdown, so he only have a little window from what they told me? And in there must be hot. I am sitting outside here. I'm even sleeveless. Right now, I have to be drinking water constantly. He's not free to do that. And yet still, we're being told he cannot get any more than 2 bottles of water. When I honor the 4 bottles, the court actually ordered that he gets 4 bottles of water. These are the 2 bottles that were sent back last week, Sunday. But I want to tell you that this one was from the week before. This one was extra because when the sergeant was there, he said to me, I gave him a letter. And this is a letter from my Mr. Stevens' lawyer. And I'm going to read it. It says here, Keita Stevens in custody, and he gives the name of the facility. We act on behalf of our clients, Mr. Keita Stevens. Mr. Stevens is being held in custody and he names the facility. Miss Dorothy Lowe, the partner of Keita Stevens, has been experiencing great difficulty in delivering drinking water, right here, to Mr. Stevens, and on some occasions has not been able to supply Mr. Stevens with less than half the amount that he requires. Mr. Stevens suffers from a medical condition that causes him to be taking medications, and the taking of medication requires him to have and to drink at least 4 bottles of drinking water per week. Although his partner, Miss Lowe, provides the necessary amount of water on the visiting days, we are instructed that the police officers who supervise the intake of food and water constantly refuses the 4 bottles of water and will allow only 2 bottles only to be given to Mr. Stevens. This conduct by the police officers is likely to cause grave danger to the health of Mr. Stevens. So, as to avoid any deterioration or danger to the health of Mr. Stevens, we write to ask that you be good enough to employ your good offices in causing the necessary steps to be taken and the necessary instructions to be given to allow Mr. Stevens to receive the adequate and appropriate amount of drinking water because of his medical condition. Now, the police officer has indicated to me that if my lawyer don't know what he's saying, because I need to go to the commissioner's office. Now, why on earth would the commissioner have what you call them again, DSPs in the different areas? Isn't that to delegate and make sure that the proper operations of these facilities are done? So why is it that the lawyer who has his letterhead and him have it on proper good paper too? Why is it that this cannot be recognized? There is a stamp with his signature affixed to the document, and we are still being refused. I have been told that, listen to me, we're not giving no extra treatment. It's not about extra treatment. I don't know what that is, and I'm speaking out very clearly about it this evening, because tomorrow, God's willing, is another visit. And by the way, as we speak about that, how am I being treated now? When I get to the visit, if the barrier for the facility is up, as soon as my car comes up, it goes down. I make sure that my entire the four windows are wound down. I make sure that whomever is in there, we are properly attired. I make sure when I get there, we are, I mean, I'm not a child. So I must know how to attire myself for visits. Now when I get there, this interrogation, step out of the car. Let me see your shoes. No, I do not drive in shoes. I cannot feel the pedals under my feet when I'm driving with shoes on. Now, if I choose to take my shoes on, I am still a free agent. I can do so. Now, when I step out, I might be wearing a Crocs, but I've never come on the compound with anything less. I've worn my designer leather slippers, and I'm being told I need to take those off. All right, fine. The officers indicated that there is a sign that says no flip-flop. Now, I would love to ask the Prime Minister and the cabinet. Let me ask a question. How many of you will actually go and take a pair of shoes to make sure that each person who's locked up, that their loved one gets a proper pair of shoes to go in? That's a question I'd love to ask. How does this pair of flip-flop, which sometimes is only something that, you know what I see people out there doing? Because they will not accept them to come out with a visit? Going outside to borrow somebody's shoes, just to go in, to borrow somebody's pants, just to put on. No, my God, we can't even see our loved one because they're way up the top. And all we have to do is drop off the visit. I was told I should not have taken our child on the compound. Now, the thing about it is this. My mother and I are the only two individuals with this baby who's 2 years old. What are we supposed to do? Leave the child in the car? Now, what I decided on doing is how to rotate it. So, I am not going to leave my bags unattended for anybody to slip anything in it. I'm sorry, I'm speaking openly. Now, when my bag is placed there, I asked my mother to stand with the child right there. We're not in a jail setting. All that is there is a drop-off point. So I don't know what the child is not going to see. The same set of people, she'll see people just the same when she leaves. And I asked my mother to stand beside it. I will take the car, I will park it outside, on the roadside, lock it and take the keys to my mother and ask her to go sit in the car when she's finished while I do the visit. And even when I do that, I am being shouted at. You're breaking rules. I'm asking officer what rule. Because I said that Mr. Stevens should get his 4 bottles of water. Apparently that's the rule that is being broken. The man has a medical condition and he's not the nation's child. Now I want persons to understand that when persons are locked up, they don't become these victims of what? They are still our children. No, I have never ever gotten in the case to actually stop the officers from doing anything. I have humbly, along with the family, got up every single Sunday and do this visit. I have never written a petition to the Prime Minister to ask him to actually give me a grant because I don't need it. I have never asked anybody for anything. God has provided everything. Now, the weirdest part is that last week I took a visit. And what was so interesting is that I went in. The officer checked his time, and by the way, everybody else, I was told that the visit is from 11 o'clock until 3 o'clock. Now, because they said me breaking the rule, they told me that my visit doesn't end at 3 o'clock, it ends at 2:45. And I've not said anything, I've held my peace. When I go in, one officer who says that he's the head of the department over there, he basically got 5 other officers to team up to say that I am breaking rules. I've asked him one question: what rule have I broken? The water? How? Being polite? How? He said I should not have worn my slippers. I made sure I wore a nice pair of flat shoes. He never purchased it. No, even wearing that, I even had to say to him, I said, officer, he said to me, he was now trying to find something else to now say that I was breaking the rule. Every single week I come late. I said, watch your mouth, officer, don't tell any lies on me. Because one of the first things is your big book supposed to can't tell it. And what I do, I take a screenshot as I reach at the gate. Because I know the setup that is going to happen. No, I can't believe that this is in my country. I went overseas to live and teach. And I've represented this country to the best of my ability. I've been an ambassador. My salary overseas, the last teaching job that I had, was about 1.4 million Jamaican dollars per month. My license is still legit. My mother is a green card holder. My father died as a citizen of the United States. My ex-boyfriend, I tell him, was an American citizen who worked for the American government. My brothers are also citizens of the United States. So if I wanted to become a citizen, it is not a problem. When I went up there the other day just to teach, I could have just married somebody. I didn't have to come back. I choose to be here, and I choose to be treated, I must be treated with that level of respect. Now, whenever time I take Mr. Stevens' food, it's another problem for the officers. Now, I notice that they dig up the food every time. I don't mind they dig up the food and search for whatever, that's fine. So what I do to facilitate the visit is to make sure that the gentleman's food is in small containers. In rice and peas, his potato salad, by the way, is done with some lovely eggs that gives it that nice creamy, because that's how you get the original meal. His mixed veg in it. I have his fresh vegetables in another dish. I would have his callaloo placed in another dish. Yes, I have his fried fish placed in another dish, and his chicken, if that's the case, because you get two different meats per day. And the thing about it is this: after the officers have finished checking, which I have absolutely no problem, because I cook it, so me enjoy it. Me make sure, oh yes, somebody in the audience said they enjoy it just the same. No, I actually take those meals and I properly place it, so when the man gets it, and my husband ain't getting food looking like a husband material and not like a mixed up. It's like a cookie. And this is what they're upset about. My thing about it is this: I think our officers they actually do an excellent job. Some of them. And I'm going to say this: Mr. Stevens has been sitting in jail for 1 year plus, and he's only remanded. He is not convicted. Let the courts do their due diligence. What is interesting is this: why? You know what was interesting? I was hoping that Mr. Mitchell, I'm so sorry that Mr. Mitchell is not here tonight, because where the case is right now, it's not just the visit that is a problem to us. It's how the justice system, as Dijon rightfully say, has been taking its due course. Now, want me to tell you, let me explain something to you where I have questions. Because I have questions as to why is it that last week I brought a bag of soap. This is a 5-pound bag. There was more soap in it than this. I brought 4 bottles of water. The sergeant in charge said I'm only taking 3 after reading the letter. First in the adamant about says only 2. When him read the letter, apparently he realized him decides that he's going to stand resolute. Me not get, Mr. Stevens not getting the 4 bottles of water. He might forget. And this is water. Jamaica is known as the land of food and water. Rain fall nearly every day all over the place. I guess still he can't get water to drink as he wishes. Now, the bag of soap. This is the exact toothpaste container that I purchased. I have to squeeze it out into a plastic bag for those around the world who don't understand how it works here. And when you squeeze it out, it must be transparent so that nothing is in it, so it is checked. I watched as the officer, a young officer, and I even called him by name based on his name written on his shirt, checked my bags. I found it strange that I had to check and taste it 2 times. So the officer actually asked me, checked it, because I take my own fork, don't want it mixed up with everything, and we check it. There's nothing in it, fine, it's placed in a dish. So now they're asking for 2 containers. So I make sure I bring a big enough one so that the food not shake up when they put it in the truck. So it is nicely presented for the gentleman. This is 1 time per week that we get this done. Now he has a bottle of coconut water. So we normally get the Jellyman coconut and put it into a bottle. And we get the meat, the pieces, the soft meat, and we drop it in there. So we would freeze this. Now this is the only cold water that the man gets, the only cold substance for the entire week, because we don't get a chance to see it again. So the soap, here's the juice. I have tons of videos from last year that I take Mr. Stevens a Minute Maid, because they do not take, and that's at the jail, dark colored drink. So we can't carry grape, the grape flavored drinks. Nothing dark. We have to carry the light one. So the orangey one is nice. So the Minute Maid is a nice one. If it's not the Minute Maid, it's the Tropics. So I took Mr. Stevens a bottle of Minute Maid, a bottle of coconut water, 4 bottles of water. 1 was taken back. So the officer said that 1 can't go into, it was only 3 him taking. And then he says to me, seeing that he's only him getting 3 bottles of water, him say him no want no juice. Now how would he have said that? We're doing 1 year now. And this is what the visit looks like every single Sunday. So why would he not want any juice? This is the 1 bottle of juice for the whole week. Why would he not want it? But it was very strange that on Monday, so the 31st of July, on Monday morning of this week, I stored it on my phone at 7:25. An officer from the jail is gonna call me with Mr. Stevens on it, asking me, Dorothy, did you send my coconut water? Did you send my Minute Maid? You send soap? Because he's out of soap, he says. You send my toothpaste? I found that was weird, because I said, of course I did. I sent everything. I sent everything. He said, I have not gotten any of these. No, I'm saying in front of me, the bag was tied. It was such a weighty bag because of the 3 bottles of water and the coconut water plus the juice. I went ahead and I had to get another. I bought the transparent garbage bags. And I asked the officer to put it in it. And we shuffled it. We had to shuffle it because it was weighty. And he tied it the second time. I got a marker and I personally wrote Mr. Stevens' name on it. And the man still not get it. No, I have a couple of questions. How safe is he then? Because if you're going to open the bags after, then it's not safe. I have concerns. That's lack of trust. But that's not the only area that we're having the lack of trust with, because the police officer has actually accused Mr. Stevens of certain things, medical conditions, and Mr. Mitchell, his lawyer, actually sent for the report, and the report is still missing. Not too sure. I am next of kin and I didn't go for it, so I'm not too sure where it's at. But I hope it will be brought before the court, so at least we can actually justify that. No, as I said to you before, I don't wish to speak to the legal aspect of it, but I'm sharing my experience. It's been horrible. Really horrible. No. Soap is gone. My thing is this: every single police officer actually has a job. You get a paycheck at the end of the month. What is it that our jailers get? They can't move. So this one visit, it was my hands that was used to tie this knot, so at least him can see some boy make me hear. You only gave him 3 bottles of water then, because you told me that he was not supposed to get any juice. My thing is this: police officers are not our parents. Mr. Stevens' mother died when he was 17 years old. And his father died a couple years ago from cancer. So his parents are not alive. Now I am asking that persons allow each profession to do their job. I have other concerns. The fact that Mr. Stevens was remanded. If you can go back to what I said to you at the beginning of everything, the first law, it says there were no charges, no other charges on his records. The court has asked for 2 criminal records to be brought into the courts. Now I'm sure those would have been, I see a student here from, former student of Arden High School who is thinking about going into law. And one of the things is this: the criminal records would speak to his background. So if he has no criminal records, why is he still being held? That's a concern for me. And I'm going to jump into something at this point to show you. And before I even jump into this, I'm going to read something. I am going to read from the Jamaica. This is a Gleaner. The Gleaner Company has this online source, Code of Ethics. And I'm reading, it says here, we are committed to seeking and reporting the truth. We will dedicate ourselves to reporting news accurately, thoroughly, and without bias and malice. We will be honest in the way we gather, report, and present news. We will hold factual information in editorials to the same standards of accuracy as news stories. We will keep our content relevant and balanced, providing to our readers a broad spectrum of information and views. We are committed to serving the public. It should be public's interest. We will do our best to uphold the Constitution, which is vital. That's why I wanted Mr. Mitchell to speak to that tonight. And sir, I do apologize for being late, but a lot had happened. We support parliamentary democracy, including a multi-party system in which there are regular elections freely and fairly conducted. Now that's for the... We are committed to staff development. We are committed to fair play. We will strive to include all sides relevant to a story and not exhibit bias in our news coverage. The word bias means that we're not going to be just looking at one side of it. Am I correct? And a white side of the story. There must be one couple sides of the story. You have Jamaicans always say what? There is your side, my side, and the truth. Now the funniest thing is this, that Mr. Stevens was taken to court on the 4th of August 2022, and for documentation on the 5th of August this was printed, and this was in the Weekend Star, and this is the authentic one. This was Mr. Stevens' brother who brought this to my attention. It says daycare operator faces 40 sexual grooming charges. When I saw this, I nearly dropped down, because I am saying I don't understand why was this placed in the papers. But it doesn't stop there. The story is on page 3. Look at how gruesome this picture is. Now in this it says, and I decided on reading it, it says the operator for daycare facility who allegedly was found in possession of 20,000 sexual performance enhancement tablets has been charged with sexual grooming of a 13-year-old. That, however, may just be the tip of the iceberg, as police are said to be close to laying an additional 40 sexual related charges against him. We are asking that he remains where he is based on the magnitude of investigations, the prosecutor said, while urging Senior Parish Judge Lorianne Cole Montague not to offer him bail. The prosecutor said that offering him bail would affect the police investigations. There is evidence of a witness who was at the police station giving a statement, and the accused, while in the police custody, was interfering with the officer's investigation and sent a voice note to the witness telling the witness not to speak with the police and to increase their age, basically to tell the police that the child is an adult. He was obstructing the police officers, the prosecutor said. Now, why don't you bring the phone in the courthouse and let us hear the voice note to hear what Mr. Stevens actually said? Because I don't think that's difficult. And on that premise, can I say that it is 1 year now and the phones are still not in the courts? Based on Mr. Mitchell's words, I was told that when he subpoenaed, Mr. Mitchell subpoenaed the phones 3 times. And when the Mr. Mitchell stated to me that when the judge asked, where are the phones? I get to understand that the police officer said he took the phones to the investigating team, but the line was too long, so he took them back. Tomorrow is supposed to be what? Emancipation what? Independence. Tomorrow is independence? I don't even know exactly, because the thing is we can't be independent or anything. Emancipation from what? No. I say get the cell phone. So 2 things are now looking at the cell phone for evidence. 1, the sexual videos that were used to shut down the bail in the first instance. And 2, the voice note that is said to be out there. Now, the report goes on to say, the name of the accused man is being withheld as the publication can result in the minor being identified. When he appeared in the Kingston and St. Andrew Parish Court on Thursday, prosecutors said sometime in September 2020, the man, despite being told by the complainant that she was a minor, took her to a pub and gave her alcohol to drink. No. 2020? No, my question to Mr. Mitchell is, if he had a case in 2020, why isn't that on his records? Wouldn't the criminal records see that? If he was arrested and charged as the story in the Star rightfully says, then wouldn't it be on his record? No. 2019, I know I went and did an expungement for him because in 2019 when I was migrating, I asked him to come overseas with me, and he had two matters that were actually on the books with him. Destruction of property. This was with himself and his uncle. So they actually own properties in Jamaica. So Mr. Stevens, not so poor as we thought. So his apparently his grandmother owns the property, and he was living there for a number of years. But this happened when he was in his 20s, and his uncle, after his father died, his uncle wanted to build a wall, and he had a truck because he had a trucking business. I went to actually a company, and I was told that am I talking about the Mr. Stevens? Mr. Stevens has one of the best truck. So he had a truck. He used the truck to hit down the wall, and he was placed in lockups mostly for 6 months. When he came back out, he and his uncle again, family feud, had the same altercation. And those are the 2 destruction of properties. Now, if I clear those in 2019, which is about 4 years ago, and I can promise you Mr. Stevens has absolutely no other records, then I'm not too sure where the charge of 2020 came from and how was he charged. So those are some of the questions I want to ask of my dear Prime Minister and my dear the Justice team. No, I am not going any further because I think many persons would have read this. One lady says, when I went online and I saw the reviews on this, they slashed him and they slaughtered him and they tore him apart, and all you could hear is 50 and 50. Right now it's not even a 13 here, it's a 50. I hear it's a 15, it's a 30. I'm not too sure, I'm so confused. But I'm leaving the court system to sort out that confusion. Now, if he does have a criminal record, why is he in remand so long? I know we did one bail hearing, which was in April, and that bail hearing was actually turned down. And I would rather Mr. Mitchell speak to that than myself, because I'm not capable. As I said to you before, I'm a teacher, so I'm not capable to deal with the legal aspect of things, and I will leave that to the legal team to get that done. But as I bring the case down, I actually went and let me speak from this perspective now. I'm going to the Jamaica Observer. Now the Jamaica Observer, I just love their policies, and this is a part of their policy statement. It says here, the policy that governs the reporter's responsibilities. It says the executive editors must ensure general compliance with the editorial code of conduct and hold responsible all editors, reporters, and contributors for the quality of material that is submitted for publication. Principles: accuracy. Due care shall be taken not to publish or broadcast untrue, inaccurate, misleading, or distorted material or information. Special care should be made to avoid distortions made possible by the new information and communication technologies. With the explosion of the internet, journalists have more access to more information than ever. These sources should not be used without attribution and should be checked for accuracy before the information is used in broadcast or in print. JOL is committed to remedying in a timely manner all errors of fact once we become aware, with a clarification, correction, or an apology. If a staff member becomes aware of an error in his own or others' published work, the staff member has a responsibility to notify an editor as soon as possible. Now, there is a part I want to read that says, that speaks to, yes, if it is established that a correction is required where necessary, the offended party will be contacted by the legal officer to discuss the terms or the correction, and the correction will be made as quickly as possible. Now, there's a part in it where it says you can speak directly to the legal team. Now, defamation. All reporters and editors must be aware of the defamation laws and ensure that they attend all legal seminars on defamation so that they are kept up to date on charges in the law. Make sure that the nature, they need to consider, careful consideration must be prioritized to publication, the nature of the information, the source of the information, the steps taken to verify the information, whether comments were sought from all potential claimants, which include persons directly referred to or affected by the story, whether the article contained the gist of the potential claimant's side of the story, the seriousness of any allegations contained in the article, the tone of the article, the extent to which the information is a matter of public concern, the circumstances of the publication, which includes the urgency of the matter. Why do I say that? I will speak to the part that says whether comments were sought from all potential claimants, which include persons directly referred to or affected by the story. Now, I found a story that was published by the Observer, very interesting, where a particular lawyer who went to school with my son at St. George's College actually posted, the lawyers were commenting on the lockup system. They were also speaking about how is it that persons actually were in lockup and not all persons in lockup were guilty. I actually asked if I could speak about the water situation with this gentleman. Hence, here comes the story on the front page of the Sunday Observer, which says woman claims torture. And I still believe it is torture, because if you deny the person their water and you know they have high blood pressure, you know they have medication taken, I think it is definitely torture. It says spouse lashes lockup system even as her man faces 212 counts to defend in court. And I'm going to stop there. I did not speak to that. I spoke to the water. So no information was sought from me about this. I asked to the reporter to say, if we spoke to the lawyer, I've been saying this to all reporters who've been coming and publicizing this, just speak to the lawyer. I've made his number, I'm available, and I've made his name available. He is on the World Web. You can speak to him. Now, as I come to a close, I would like to close by saying, I have watched Mr. Mitchell battle the different aspects of this case. I have cried. It is stressing. I just had a set of PEP students just leaving and I could not even focus on them. I do operate the school now as we speak, and I'm going to say thanks to my support team, my past students, members of the community which we actually live in. I want to say thanks to even the chairwoman. I want to say thanks to the family members overseas. I want to say thanks to my mother. I want to say thanks to my brothers. I want to say thanks to friends, persons who just call and ask, Dorothy, how are you doing now? I thought about this forum because I wanted our side of the story to be heard. I sit here and I am going to say, just as Dijon said, Mr. Stevens is not guilty of some of the charges in terms of the sexual molestation. I'm not too sure how much of anything else within the case, but I stand resolute, he's not guilty. No, you might say I am being biased because it's my loved one, but I'm saying if he is guilty, then I'm going to ask that the case, as quickly as possible, if you want to give him, I think bail, I think that's a part of our fundamental rights as a citizen. If you're charged, you should be given bail. I think there's a certain time frame in which you should get bail. I've heard of persons who have committed rape, the act itself, and they are out on bail. I've heard of persons on murder charges and they're out on bail. I've heard of persons who have done drugs, hardcore drugs, and they're out on bail. I am not here to say whether the court system is doing a good job or not a good job, but I'm here to say we'd love to have him here. Tomorrow says independence. I don't believe in independence. I believe in interdependence. Because I believe that every human being was created to actually reach out to the next person. I believe that if the way I am feeling now, if I was so independent, I would need anybody's, I would need no outside force. Money doesn't make me independent. Food doesn't make me independent. A house doesn't make me independent. I need everybody around me. No, I am saying that was my opinion. Everything that is said in here is my view, my opinion. It's my pain. And for the past 1 year plus, I'm going to be imploring my Prime Minister to do me a big favor and the Justice team. I, Dorothy Lowe, has never stepped in to bombard any of the investigations. I have never tried to stop or try to intimidate anyone. And I'm going to be asking the police officers not to intimidate me. As I sit here, Mr. Stevens has a doctor's appointment coming up. And the fact that the medical report went missing, what I get to understand, what was said to me by Mr. Mitchell, is that the doctor actually sent to tell him that the report was actually given to the police, and if he needs a copy, he's supposed to go to the police for the copy. That is, from what I've seen and what I know about ethics laws, that's unacceptable. That's against principle. That's a breach of ethics because that's giving out public information about the gentleman, and he did not authorize it. I am on his file as next of kin. I can't even authorize it. It has to come from him and his lawyer, and we still have not gotten a copy. Now, I do not trust, and I'm saying this openly, I have no confidence in what's happening now. The fact that the police officers went into his bag, after we checked it, it was reopened. I have no form of confidence anymore. I have no confidence in terms of with the doctors, the medical team that he sees, because if you're going to take his personal information and just give it out like that, I have concern. However, let me state it, I am nowhere fearful. So I'm going to be asking the relevant persons, can the police do their job? Can the lawyers do their job? Or the judicial team do their job? And can you allow me to do my job? When I put my foot right back on the property tomorrow, I'm going to go back there with my respectful self, and I'm still going to be taking 4 bottles of water as stipulated because the court ordered it, and they tell me that the judge can't order nothing. I must go to the commissioner's office. I'm going to take back the coconut water, and I'm going to take back the juice, and I'm going to take back his soap. I'm going to take back his toothpaste. I'm going to get another toothpaste. But I'm going to say, I do not collect a paycheck right now, and so whatever God has provided for me, I'm going to ask the officers to kindly let my loved one enjoy it. And to all those persons out there who are going through the same experience as I am, my heart goes out to you. It's my first time, but I am going to be praying with you. I stand resolute with all the persons who goes. Everybody said they look for my Brooklyn bag. They said they're so inspired by it. I religiously get up. Tonight is the only night that you don't find me packing his bag, but I'm going to be packing his bag shortly to make sure that the visit is attended to. I'm going to thank all persons who are here tonight. Thank you for taking the time just for listening to our side. I am going to be awaiting the next hearing. I want to say publicly thank you, Mr. CJ Mitchell, for just being there with us, for not just being our lawyer, but just for being a good friend, a support team. To the cameraman who's here, thank you for taking the time out, for waiting even when we had our glitches. The young lady who was supposed to do the decor, I want to send a prayers for her because I hear that she's now in the hospital. So we went to a lot of glitches. My mother for actually jerking the chicken, because we had jerk chicken today, Jamaican style, with the country pepper. We had our escovitch fish, and we had the Jamaican syrup. So just as all Mr. Stevens getting syrup, so we have ours. And I want to say thanks to Tevin for just linking. Thanks to Dijon for being online. Thanks to all the other persons who wants to be here. Mr. Stevens, thanks. Even those who are online, thanks for staying with us through the whole process. We are allowing the justice system to take its course. And to making thanks a lot for being here. And I say thanks to everyone for taking the time. Have a blessed night. Keita, you soon be out. Riding those CBRs again.
Missed the bike.
We missed the bike. I guess I miss riding on the back of the bike. On my Friday night, every Friday night. I look so cute on it. Especially when I turn.
Kevin, look at me. The time missed the bike back.
I missed the bike back. You see, the thing about it is this. He's such an awesome person. I mean, he normally takes me out on a Friday night to make sure that I de-stress for work. So when I stand in front of the nation cheering, I already went to the restaurant. I already de-stress. We talk about everything. We laugh, we chat. I enjoy. That is who he is. He's not the type of person who walks around and hurts anyone.
Oh, them trophy go.
These trophies over here, so these are the Skittle trophies. So basically, Mr. Stevens, what are some of the teams that he plays for Scaramouche?
Right.
Yes. And we have Mystic. He has played for Mystic before.
Right.
I have watched him with some of his biggest matches. When that man gets into the around the pool the skittle table. You know, I remember a memorable match. It was at RJ. No, it was at JPS. Yes. Yeah. And it was 1 week. It was the finals. And I remember when his opponent actually said to him, you know, I'm going to beat you with everything tonight. Even your girlfriend may carry home tonight. And Mr. Stevens, he didn't even speak a word. And I remember when he sat with the cue, I could hear the cue. I remember the last ball, just to make sure that he solidified his championship. When he actually hit that ball, he missed. And when he looked, the prize was up. His girlfriend plus everything else that was going on for the trophy that night. And I remember he stood with his cue. And he watched as his opponent, what's his name again? The Indian guy. I can't remember his name. But when he went on it, I remember his opponent just turned his head and looked at him. And when he hit that last ball, I mean, he knocked everything. He took everything. I mean, the place went up in a frenzy. I mean, it was jam-packed that night. And I remember persons walked over to me to say, listen, you have a champion. Keita Stevens is rated as top 10 in Skittle in Jamaica. Yes. I watched him collecting one of these trophies on, it was TVJ News. And funniest thing is this. One of the, it was one of my co-workers who called me and said, Lou, you're watching Keita's on TV, you know? And as he collected his trophies, he kept them. This is who he is. He had a whole lot more. This is who he is. And I just want to tell you, when I saw him in court the last time, Mr. Mitchell allowed us to have a one-on-one in the Olin area. And he said to me, Dorothy, I'm actually teaching. I taught 5 guys in the lockups how to play chess. Because he asked me for a chess board and I sent it in. I want to say thanks to the police officers. Because I do have a couple of police officers who are really adamant and they said to me, listen to me, we don't like what's happening with him either. But we're grateful. And with each trophy, he prizes himself even with this medal. But more than anything else, this is where his heart lies. When he takes up his bikes, his CBRs. Keita Stevens would actually purchase a brand new bike every year. He'd always change it. And the last one that he had, I mean, I have pictures with us just being up with it. Every time I hear a CBR pass, I look outside and I'm listening for it to be parked up on the outside there. But I'm saying this as the courts go through its deliberation, I just want to say, Son of Peppers, I am so grateful for every single judge who sits there. I'm not going to be biased with anybody. I know they see more than I see because each profession has its own genre. It has its own jargon of words, and my jargon of the words that I use is not the ones that the court uses. So I know Mr. Mitchell knows exactly how to tailor his words. I know the judges are looking out for certain things. I know they see certain things. And it might have taken a year, but Auntie, it's a rough one. But I think after this, we need a long break, honestly. And he's going to be back on his bike soon. I'm looking forward to him being on it. You know, my father rode bikes. Everybody would say to me, but as a teacher, you ride bike? Yes, I do ride on the bike. My father has had me on bike since I was 5 years old. Bikes are not new. And as we go through, this is Keita Stevens, and he's still a champion. And I'm going to be saying, as we tune out, justice must be served.
Yes.
And we're going to stand and we're going to sing the national anthem as we close. And I want you not just to sing it as Jamaicans would say willy-nilly. I want us to put some feelings in it because it's a prayer. So can I ask persons who can stand, just kind of stand for me, please. After 2, 1, 2. Eternal Father, for land, guard us with thy mighty hand. Keep us free from evil powers. Be our light through countless wars. To our leaders, great defender, grant true wisdom from above. Justice, truth be ours forever. Jamaica, land we love. Jamaica, 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 land we love. Teach us true respect for all. Stir response to duty's call. Strengthen us the weak to cherish. Give us vision lest we perish. Knowledge send us, Heavenly Father. Grant true wisdom from above. Justice, truth be ours forever. Jamaica, land we love. Jamaica, 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 land we love. Justice must be served.
Justice must prevail.
Yes. No, my wedding song is going to be a Buju Banton. So Mr. Myrie, your father is actually one of Keita Stevens' dearest friends. So Keita has known Buju Banton's or Mark Myrie. My son had the privilege of actually going to school with him at George's too. And Mr. Myrie is actually a very close friend of Keita. And the song that I want to take us out with is Buried Alive. And you know the Buju Banton that Mr. Stevens says is going to be our wedding song. Rose in my garden.
I was buried alive, but I'm still breathing. I don't know what tomorrow may bring, but I've got a feeling. I am alive, there must be a reason. I was given one more chance, my heart's still beating. Buried alive.
Yes, buried alive.
I'm still breathing. I don't know what tomorrow may bring, but I got a feeling.
I've got a feeling.
Oh, I am alive.
Keita is alive.
There must be a reason.
There must be a reason.
I was given one more chance. My heart's still beating.
Keita, this is yours.
All this time I've been blind, only running against the wind. Friends of mine pass with time.
Yeah.
After living a life of sin, some nearly give up.
Never give up, Keita. Never give in.
It's my determination to win.
That's it.
I survive.
You're a champion.
Most of times I survive.
He survived 1 year in remand, and he's going to come out. Keita was buried alive,
But I'm still breathing. I don't know what tomorrow may bring, but I got a feeling. Oh, now I'm alive. There must be a reason. I was given one more chance. My heart's still beating. Oh, they made a ditch for one.
Now this is it.
In their attempt to hold my life, the wicked things they do.
Father, we thank you.
But Jammeh, I brave, and I come down brave. Oh no, the Lord is my salvation, and whom shall I fear?
Nobody buried alive. Keita was buried alive, but he's still breathing. Auntie Munch, thanks a lot. I really appreciate this time back.
Yeah, one more song to
Thank
play.
you for coming. One more, not a problem.
Yeah, one more come. Big man have a ride out in storm, you know?
Let's make up that song. Okay, will you request that one? Kevin, request this one. Auntie, 1 second, I'm coming.
Don't give up, yeah, just ride out.
Morning, Daniel. So good. Pay it off on your phone. Remember? Alright.
Come with it, Tevin, I'm waiting.
Come here.
I've done 1 year of crying. So this tonight is rejoicing. And we're giving God thanks. Because he has never lost a battle. Yes, ma'am. Good night, Auntie. Thank you so much. Kisses. Thank you so much. We'll soon hear the bike roaring again. From the top of the avenue straight down.
Auntie, give me a second, yeah?
Tonight I work so.
Oh.
That's it. She's ready, but I'm coming.
Oh, we got Boju.
No, yeah, I ride out the storm, man.
No, man, we need to. No problem. Thank you so much.
Adina, give me this.
Thank you so much.
Give it to me.
Don't give up, yeah, just ride out your storm. You're feeling the storm.
Thank you so much.
And it seems like forever.
Oh, it's looking.
And unites all confusion has been so long. Your ship at lost up, and the storm got to drifting. Just hold on to Jesus and
You see all those steel? All those steels is what, when I came back from the States in 2020, I actually, the parents and myself, we did a cake sale because we're building the school. The blocks around there. The amount of money that we've been spending on this legal issue, we can't even build the school. I am so happy that Queens High School right now, we're getting one of our students and St. Andrew Technical High School. So God did not fail us and He has not failed us, and I'm grateful for that. Because God has never left us. Every single bottle of water that was purchased by the Most High God. Every soap that was purchased by Him. Every single snack was purchased by the Most High God. And we never had to beg anything. And so I'm truly grateful. So we want to finish up our school. We want to make sure that we can serve other lives. Just as how Dijon is a prominent person in society, Asia and all the others, that's what we want. And I came back for this reason. This is what we put our money in. And as you can see, Mr. Stevens would have done an excellent job because even when he's there, God is still blessing us. So I'm so grateful.
Just hold on
And then that's another thing. What persons don't even know is that Keita's family they're from business background. For those who don't know, King Burger, they own the franchise. Yes, the auntie owned King Burger before there was a Burger King. And then even my mother never used to do my hair with nothing else except Bell Rose, yes. Right. And so these are prominent business standards. That's the business people that he comes from. His grandfather is actually a former Mancunian. And also a legitimate pharmacist that he owns his own pharmacy here in Jamaica. So the business is not new to Mr. Stevens. It is within his blood. It's within his nature. And so I know justice needs to be out to serve. The person said to me, because I went through my own case in the States, where my job was terminated illegally. And so when I came back, I saw this happening to Keita. I'm saying, no man. Somebody asked me if my principal terminates my job if she was white. Two principals, one black, one white. And one person to understand. Evil knows no color. No color, even a no color. So when love knows absolutely no color either. So anyway you take it, Keita is half white, half black. So that's it. So guess what? And there's no battle with me. My mother is partial Cuban. My last name is Chinese. So right now in this emancipation and I don't say independence, I say interdependence season. Let us do the right thing. Let us grow. We're 61 years. We're fully mature. This should not be happening in our country at this time. Remand for 1 year without bail. Denying of water and food at times, no man. We need to do better. And riding out the storm is a perfect way to end this. Perfect way. Scaramouche, you say his father had at his own skittle club. Scaramouche. Keita played for Scaramouche. Keita been playing for 56 years. So his father owned one of the biggest bars. Now, there's a story that I learned about Mr. Stevens. That the Right Honorable Peter Phillips was supposed to be his father. No, I didn't because she ended up liking Keita's mother. Yes, Auntie told me. So what I get to understand is that Keita's father went to Jamaica College. And while going to Jamaica College with the Right Honorable Peter Phillips, they were best friends. And so that's Norman Stevens. So Norman Stevens is actually Keita Stevens' father. And I get to understand that Mr. Phillips liked Keita's mother, but Norman kind of kicked her foot. And before you know it, it was Norman Stevens who ended up with right, with mommy. And so we were laughing about it. But I want the right thing to be. And we have always had a bar. They're all friends.
Guess what? You see,
You hear that Peter Phillips' wife is a good friend of Peter Stevens' mother? That's interesting. Oh, so Mr. Stevens' mom made crafts. She made crafts. So sweet. And that's contributing to our tourism industry.
She make the necklace, she make
The bangles. And that's contributing meaningfully. So businesses actually in there, and they own. I get to understand that the bar that they owned was one of the most elite back then, because that's where all the politicians went. That's where all the top police officers went. That's where everybody went. So I mean, a bar is. That's what it is. It's going to be okay. God is in charge. It's going to be a new beginning.
I'm a Mr. Keita go ride out in Stam.
Them have to ride it out. Have to ride out in Stam. And we're not evil. I mean, we've cried. You know what was the most touching part of everything? In December, when we went to one of the bail hearings, and I remember when I went to us and I asked the police officer if I could just hug him. Because when he heard remand, I saw his shoulders drop and I saw the head drop and I knew he was just frustrated. And when I went to us and I hugged him, I remember he buried his head in my neck and he said to me, darling, I don't want to be in here for Christmas. And I could hear the tears in his voice, and I told him, I said, don't you dare drop a tears in here. Don't you dare cry in front of your enemies. I said, you're not going to think about birthdays, you're not going to think about anniversaries, you're not going to think about anything. Just focus on your God and just we're praying you up, you're going to get through. And in December when I saw him walk, I mean, it was just so tearful. When I saw him at the university hospital when he went for his doctor's visit, chains on his foot, I mean, why are we torturing him? Yeah man, this is how we did it. The chain on the feet was from slavery days. We're not in a slavery time. And so one of our brilliant minds is still being behind bars, as many of our brilliant minds. We need to have a better justice system where we can actually have people leaving this loud remand and start being productive. It don't really matter who. Every single person is important. Every single person is contributing. Every single one.
Nikki, got some art, you see?
That's his sister.
Okay. Go on back on front and see something.
Just want to say, I mean, I know his baby sister is online, but what's so touching this morning, and what is so, I try not to cry, but every time a phone call goes out, I mean, they don't know what to expect. This morning, Nikki, as I called her, she broke down. She was just crying. What's happening with her mother, Dorothy? What's going on? And I'm saying to her, I said, Nikki, calm down. It's all right. She said, are you sure? She just in tears. The funniest thing is that Keita's and your mommy died on the 1st of August. And she was so concerned as to how you guys were coping, knowing that it was the anniversary of your mother's death. And this is the 2nd year he's spending, another year in that same laptop, celebrating his mother's death. My father died on the 2nd of August. And we're going through it. We're going through it.
Mother's death recorded
On the 2nd.
But it was the 1st she died. Evening, but when they report and then come on the phone.
And he has to go through all of that without the support of family. You know what, look at how I'm sweating. Just imagine the lockup. We had heat waves and the police officers still stopped the water. That is, I thought that was just so evil. I think that was just so evil. Water. Water. What type of statement are we sending? What are we sending? That guess what? We're less than the best when we're going lockups. You know the funny thing? Jesus Christ went to jail. That's how Herod beat him. And he came back out as he's our creator. And if that can happen to him, then who say Keita Stevens? No, I am saying that person's our justice system we need to do better. No, I'm not too sure how this works, but someone actually said to me that the remand system actually allows persons at time to plead guilty because they are just tired of being in the lockup and it's indefinite. You don't know how long you're going to be in there, so you just plead guilty to even if you're not guilty. Really? And then no, you've pleaded guilty. You're now given a certain time. I just learned that. That's evil. That's evil.
Them pressure you to say guilty.
And this is not a white man thing. This is not a black man thing. This is not a Chinese man thing. It's not evil. It's evil. No man, it's evil. Now how do I teach my students and even my grandchild that this is how it is? I don't care how difficult life is. I get up in the morning with a smile on my face. Every time I step in front of those police officers, I'm one of the most respectful persons. Because there's no circumstance that is going to pressure me to the point where I'm going to lose who I am. There's nothing that is going to come before me that God can't fix, because I am, first and foremost, my mantra is, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. My parents taught me that. And so the adversaries, every time I turn, somebody's there holding my hand. I have to give a big shout out to Auntie Mitzi. Mitzi is my cousin. And every time we're going on a visit, two of us as female. You know what is so hard? She has poor circulation of blood in her feet. She has to wear the stockings, the suppressing stockings, and the police officers over by the lockup tell her she has to put on shoes or she can't do the visit. Who are they? Right now as we speak, the doctors have actually diagnosed her with chronic, some disorder of her feet. She cannot walk. Right now as we speak, she has to be elevating her foot at a 45-degree angle. And when she made the sacrifice to come with me to support Mr. Stevens, we're going to be told that you have to put on shoes. How does that help the visit? Now they are already going through their pain, and you can only make it more difficult. The persons who are visiting, they are going through their pains, and all that we can do is push them down further. The burden not hard enough? Isn't it hard enough? You have to watch your brother every day. You can't even stand. The first time you saw your brother, you weren't in tears. And I'm not saying that, guess what? Persons have not done things that is not their best. Committing a crime is not something that I want to hand-tangle. I'm not hand-tangle, that's not what I'm saying, but I'm saying treat a person as a person, as a human being. Let them have reasons to want to change. Let them have a new perspective on life. My first teaching assignment was in Waterhouse, was in Mall Road. And I remember seeing parents who just never believed that they could make it. When I lived in Reddy's all of my life, I grew up in a home where I was sheltered, I was loved. And when I went to teach, I remember my students came to me, they spoke about guns, drugs, all kind of things. And let me tell you something, you know how many of them are now prominent persons in our society? Managers, doctors, how many right out of Mall Road? Most of them went to prominent high schools such as Campion College, St. George's College, Kingston College, Bournemouth. I had like a 95% rate of traditional high school when I was teaching. It no matter where they came from. In my classroom, you had a balance. Ninja Man's daughter was in my class at one point. She's from Switzerland. And trust me, she never did her homework. And the same punishment that was meted out to her classmate was meted out to her. So one of the first things is I don't have time to be biased. I taught Ken Booth's grandson, Daniel Booth. Ninja Man's nephew, Lavan Staple, one of the filing cabinets that are inside of the school. It's from Lavan. Lavan told his father, he's a businessman, that listen to me, Daddy, this has to go to my teacher because this is what he helps me with. So we have prominent persons, irrespective of who you are and what you've done. Can we at least reach out? We're talking about independence. Can we not be interdependent? Because every time you think of yourself as being independent, you're isolating. Let us be interdependent and reach out. The police officers, they have a portion to pay. They are humans just the same. But I'm saying, as we go through the process, can we work on just knitting it for good instead of for evil? That's what the Keita Stevens justice was to serve as a good. He should not be allowed to be in remand. Just being, I call it, I just say that he's being held hostage. He's being tortured and being held hostage because that's all I can say. That's all I can say. We will be able to speak about the case once again, but not for right now, it's before the courts. But for right now, there are persons out here who are hurting. His auntie went in a coma. When I heard Auntie Rosie went in a coma, the first thing that she said when she came out of a coma was, what's happening to Billy? That's the first thing that she said. Is Billy out? She went into a coma. She was out. She collapsed because of the stress and everything. No, if she's going through that, just imagine what he's going through. When I spoke with Auntie Rosie today, we have to be coaching her and saying to her, just calm down, it's going to be okay, and just talking. I'm so concerned about our people and the decisions that we make. Because if I could have walked away from 1.4 million and still survived, then trust me, money is not the everything. When I came back, my parents were all interdependent, that we actually were able to purchase material to build the school. And I'm not going to stop by the grace of God and the wider community and the parents. We are going to build the school. My mother just brought down a whole heap of barrels and stuff. They're at the wharf. And she's my biggest cheerleader. When it comes down to her purchasing like books and toys, she throw them in a barrel and come, and even when the wharf actually charge her, she paid her money just for these kids to actually get, because she's a creative minds baby just the same. So there, I think it started blending his letter sold at 11 months. That's what we do. Now if somebody's guilty of something for heaven's sake, let us do the diligence. And then first we treat us as a human being. Now I'm going to see what happens tomorrow, God's willing, when I go to drop off his visit. Because I am not going to lower my standards for anything. So if I'm being victimized, if I'm being discriminated against because of the truth, all I'm saying, let me do my family thing. I'm supporting my other half as best as I possibly can under the best of circumstances. And why do I say best? Because he's alive. And so therefore I still think of it as a gift. And as we go through, I don't want anybody to make my burden anything. If I can't say anything, just don't say that. If I come in and I'm pleasant to you, good afternoon, and how are you doing? For heaven's sake, accept. If you don't want to accept it, you don't even have to answer me. But I'm not going to lower my standards as a teacher, as an educator, as an example, as a mentor in this country, to actually go to the point of just being nasty. So for all the police officers who are just pulling and being, just not being pleasant, listen, we have a time coming when we're going to meet somebody. We're going to want somebody to stretch out a hand to us. Let us be kind. It's a job to serve. As an educator, it's my job to serve, just to see. And I'm not going to do anything less than serving. Because it's worth serving, because later on, trust me, it's worth it. We're all going to get old. And the thing about it is this, after about 65, 70, we're retired, we're going home, and then going home to what? We're not wearing the suit anymore. So what are we going to be hiding behind? The government doesn't want workers. We are going to be replaced. And so therefore, from now, we need to understand that, listen to me, when we treat others, they might be the same person to lend another hand to us later. The same kids who hold in our hands, the same person, who knows? Who knows? I love what this one says since night, and he was being patient. And I'm so grateful. So grateful. Look at how I'm sweating. Just imagine how he's sweating. can't get a bottle of water. This is evil. And how is it that him can't brush him teeth because he's going to take him toothpaste? How can he not bathe and the liquid soap is to wash his clothes and for him to bathe? So after you take it, then what happens? What happens? The coconut water is to lower the blood pressure. And I'm trying so hard under the circumstances to ensure that he gets a condition that he can actually manage and go through his pain. Are you going to pull that from him too? What else you want from us?
What time is it?
I'll drop you back home. I am so grateful. It's a lot of people. I will not even wear my Jamaican colors. But this is not the Jamaican that's going to be seen. I agree that the concept of COVID, whole concept changed things, but it cannot change me from who I am. I'm a people person, and I'll continue being so. So when I came back home in 2020, I was coming back home to find compassion, to find a whole lot of love, and that's what pride myself on. But I see this type of hard, cold, what happened 13, so we already, based on what I'm seeing, is that persons have tried him, they have convicted him, and they've sentenced him. Because we hear what? 50 and 15 or 13? How do we know how true these stories are? Let the court do its due diligence and then we find out what happens. Mr. Mitchell has a job to do. Let Mr. Mitchell do his job. The judges have a job to do. Let them do their job. So for right now, I don't want persons to look at him or anybody else who is in a lockup system as the worst. They're not the worst. They are somebody's family member. They are somebody's family member. I'm so upset because I came here with the intention to build this school. Now the money's been used to do it. Fight me, mama. The amount of money that you spend on even snacks. We don't waste money like that. The soap, we're able to use what we have at home to the best that we can. I know every Sunday when we go, only to hear you're not too sure if it's going to reach him. You're not too sure if I'm going to get it. Open the eyes up there. As we sing, holy, holy,
thank you, put it on live. You see me? I'm blessed upon myself, you know.
Shining in the light of your glory. Oh, Lord, your power.
Sign off then.
Yeah, man. Come on,
Sign off.
Thank you again, people. Bless upon yourself.
And now, as we sing.